If I haven't met you yet or you haven't heard my voice, my name is Ryan O'Donnell. I am the CEO and co-founder of EmployUs, the company that Hireology acquired over this past summer. This is the third installment of Hireology's Quick Hit webinar series. The whole goal is to give you some short, actionable advice in like 10, 15-minute segments so that you can really accelerate your hiring efforts. In this series, we're going to be talking about all things employee referrals. This is going to be the first webinar in this series. We're going to be talking over the next couple of weeks about how to run a great employee referral program. Today, specifically, we're going to be talking about employee referral program policies. Before we dive in, I just want to remind everyone we are recording this session. You'll get a copy of it within about 1 or 2 days. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So to dive right on in, why are employee referral programs so important? I talk about this every single day. I love employee referral programs. They're by far the best way to hire. We know from all the stats that referred applicants are more qualified. They get hired faster. They generally perform better and stay employed longer. So on just about every single metric, employee referrals can be one of your best sources of hires. And we know that for candidates as well, they also generally feel like they're going to trust the company more if a friend refers them in. It's a lot better if a friend is telling you good things about the company, as opposed to just seeing what something is said, perhaps on a career page or in a job ad on their job board. So in some industries in particular, especially in like the hospitality space, hotels, bars, restaurants, it's a lot easier to tap people for employment through word of mouth rather than trying to find them through other job boards. Using those employee networks can be really helpful to get people in the door. So we do know that those are kind of the three main stats. We find that they get hired faster, they're more qualified, and they tend to stay employed longer. One stat that we have found, specifically in looking at Hireology's data, is how many referred applicants ultimately are considered quality candidates and are moving forward in the hiring process. So we looked at all the data and we found that about 38% of referred applicants move forward in the hiring process compared to just 17% for non-referrals. So just looking at this one stat, we're able to see that referrals are about twice as qualified as non-referrals, which can make a big difference in your hiring process. That's a lot less time for recruiters and hiring managers to vet candidates. If you can get just as many referrals, you can spend a lot more time forming closer relationships with those candidates and moving them through the process. One reason that we've seen this work out really well is it's just such a win-win for candidates and for the employers, because you can spend less time vetting those candidates and more time getting them through your hiring process. Another stat that we've found about the quality of employee referrals is that compared to other sources, they also get hired at a much higher rate. So employee referrals tend to get hired across Hireology's customers overall, a 10-to-1 applicant to hire ratio, which is about 4 times better than the next source of candidates, which is Indeed. And then similar for your career site or other job boards. What this really means is that those candidates are more likely to get hired. So not only are you more likely to interview them, you're also more likely to send them an offer, and they're more likely to accept that offer than a non-referral. So those are some 2 stats for you. Referrals are much more likely to be qualified candidates, twice as good as non-referrals, and they're more likely to get hired than non-referrals, about 4 times more likely. So diving into the actual program policy, we all know that employee referral programs can work really well, but it really matters about how the program is set up. About every company has some sort of referral program, whether it's formal or informal. And today we're going to be talking about 3 different areas about a program policy. The first is around eligibility. The second is around your submission guidelines. And then the third is all about your bonus payouts. We want to make it really easy for people to know exactly how the program works, who's eligible, when they get paid. These are questions that your employees have before they submit a referral. And if it's not clearly answered, whether it's in a policy documentation, an FAQ, or just known as you're promoting the program, it can create a lot of issues down the line if employees aren't sure if their referral's been contacted, if they're going to get a referral bonus. There are so many edge cases that we want to make sure that you've got a clear policy in place so that you're not kind of making it up as you go along and potentially creating some friction points for your employees, for your hiring managers, for your candidates when they feel like maybe the referral program isn't working very well or isn't worth their time. So for starters, we're going to talk about eligibility. It's all about who you decide to participate in your referral program, who's eligible from an employee perspective, as well as a candidate perspective. When it comes time for employee eligibility, what we typically look for are things like, what type of employee is this? Traditionally, most companies only offer referral bonuses for internal employees who are, full or part-time, that are currently employed, and oftentimes are not members of like the executive team or HR. Not all companies need to do this. In fact, several of our customers are running expanded programs where they're open to interns, contractors, even alumni. Some companies, it's wide open to the general public so that anyone can refer. It really just depends on how much you want to expand the program, how many referrals you want to get. If you're in a situation where you really need to crank up the volume, you might want to open it up to non-employees. If you have a pretty good program in terms of volume and you want to focus on quality, then you might restrict it to only certain employee groups. What we typically find out is that most companies restrict HR and executives from receiving a referral bonus primarily because of issues around conflict of interest. They're involved in the hiring process, and you don't want to have a situation where a hiring manager may be incentivized to only hire people that they know. We really want to make sure that we're getting a broad candidate pool. So for that reason, a lot of companies try to ensure that we want to encourage your referrals, but we don't necessarily want to make sure that you're eligible to receive a referral bonus. Your executives, your people team can be phenomenal resources for getting in candidates, but you might want to be careful about who's actually eligible for receiving a referral bonus. Some companies, because there's no right or wrong way to do this, will offer, instead of a cash reward for those employees, they might offer the ability to donate to their favorite charity or give their team, some sort of reward or recognition outside of that. So it's not that you're telling people don't refer, you're just being clear about what rewards may or may not be offered. Flipping it over to the candidate eligibility side, a lot of companies want to have strict guidelines around what types of candidates are or are not eligible for a referral bonus. At some companies, this means that if you refer a former employee, that you are not eligible for a referral bonus because that person was already in the database, they might have left, come back a month later. You might want to set a different timeline on that. So, former employees aren't eligible unless it's been more than, say 6 months or a year since they left the organization. Those alumni can be great candidates. You want to encourage employees to always tell their friends as well as their former coworkers, if you're hiring, they're a good fit, to bring them back. You may want to adjust when they're actually eligible or if they're eligible at all for a bonus. There are a couple of other criteria folks will look at. You may not want to offer a referral bonus for, interns or contractors, or for some companies, part-time employees or seasonal workers. If you're an organization that doesn't do that frequently, you might not offer a referral bonus, or you might have a different type of referral bonus. We've seen some companies, especially around seasonal hiring, really ramp up their programs for, like a $25 gift card around the holidays if you refer a seasonal employee. So it really just depends on your company, your culture, what types of employees you're hiring. So you may not have certain types of employees eligible for the full referral bonus. And then there might be some other edge criteria around, you can't get a referral bonus for referring a direct family member or a spouse, those types of scenarios as well. Moving on to the next category here is all around submission guidelines. The thing I always want to focus on here is you've got to keep it really simple for employees. So you don't want to make it overly complicated for them to refer. You also want to make sure that it's easy for them to refer and that they're referring at the right time. So typically the way we look at this is you want to have at least one channel for them to do that. If you're a smaller organization, that might just be send an email to hr@yourcompany.com. If you're a larger organization, you might want to have a dedicated tool that's going to help you receive all referrals in one place where you can direct all of your employees. A lot of companies, referrals come in a lot of different ways. You've got emails, you've got forms, you've got side conversations. You even talked to some companies where you've had employees sliding resumes under HR's door. You want to make it really clear that if you have the option to receive a referral bonus, that you have to follow whatever the process is so that you have it documented, it can be time-stamped, and you know exactly where that referral is in the hiring process. The other thing to consider is all around timing. So we've all been there where an employee says, as someone's about to start working or has already started working, that they referred them, but you've got no record of it. They might have told their friend to apply 3 or 6 months ago, but there's no record, or they might have been referred midway through the hiring process. We advise companies to set some clear guidelines of when a referral is or isn't eligible based on when it's submitted. For most companies, they make sure that this is something that needs to be done before an employee starts working or before an offer is sent. Some companies restrict it so that they have to be submitted before that candidate applies. Again, totally up to your company in terms of your culture, how you would actually reward them. We do know that if it's too complicated or it's too hard to get a bonus, some employees just won't be inclined to participate. But you just want to have some clear guidelines, like make sure they're referred prior to someone being offered an interview or things like that to encourage employees to participate and actually get it documented. The other side of this is making sure it's really simple. We really encourage companies to not have employees jump through hoops. If you think about how your program works today, if you have a hard time communicating it to employees, they definitely have a hard time participating in it. So we really advise companies don't create like a separate login or password. Don't require them to download a separate app. Make it really easy. If you've seen Employ Us, you can text someone a link. They can click the link and start referring right away. You want to make it so that when somebody is ready to send a referral, they can do that in just a few minutes and then get back to their day job. Your employees are busy. They don't want to have to spend too much time trying to figure out how to get their friend in the door. The last section here is all about defining what your bonus payouts should be. Most companies have either a flat structure or a tier base on the actual role that determines how much you're offering and when it's going to be paid out. We've run over 100 different types of employee referral programs. We've seen a lot of different types of reward structures. And before I show this, I just want to share that not all companies offer referral bonuses, and that's okay too. About 1 out of every 5 clients doesn't currently offer a referral bonus because just based on their company, that may not be appropriate for what they're doing, or they might have not done it in the past and not had an issue with getting referrals. Totally fine either way. If you do choose to offer a referral bonus, you want to make sure that you're setting the right amount for your industry as well as the jobs that you're hiring for. We've all talked about or seen in the headlines how hard it is to hire employees right now. We've seen some significant sign-on bonuses and referral bonuses being offered while the labor market has been particularly tight. We typically see referral bonuses for high volume roles, particularly in the hourly space for retail, hospitality, food service, anywhere between like a $25 gift card up to a couple $100 Again, that's been a little bit elevated over the past like 12 to 18 months. And then when you get to the more higher skilled roles where it's much more salaried, workers, those bonuses tend to range between $500 and $2,000. And then for extremely hard to fill niche roles where you might have particular types of credentials or clearances involved, that's where we've seen referral bonuses go up to the $5,000 to $10,000 range. When you're setting these amounts, it's really important to make sure it's what makes sense for your employees and for your jobs. If you have a region where referral bonuses are not significant from other companies, you may not need to offer nearly as much. If employees know that at their last company they could get $5,000, but you're only offering $250, then you'll probably see that reflected in some of the participation. In general, we have found that offering cash is the easiest thing. But if you're offering smaller amounts or you're doing rewards at different points in the hiring process, you might offer a quick gift card or do a raffle just to mix it up so you're not offering the exact same thing for everything. You might spice up the program with a weekly referral bonus raffle. We have one client who's actually giving out a Tesla to one of their employees. They're paying a lease. So they're doing that once a year, and it's driving a lot of volume for their referrals. So you don't always have to keep this kind of defined bonus payout structure. You can mix it up. But typically when you're starting with a policy, you want to have something clear that's documented. And these are some typical ranges that you might find comparable at other companies. The other thing to consider on bonuses is all about when to pay it out. A lot of companies will offer a referral bonus and pay it out within 30 to 90 days. That's our recommendation. We've seen some organizations that pay it out over a longer time horizon. We've seen that can also impact participation. I'd much rather get a couple $100 today than a couple more $100 a year from now. Certainly you want to make sure that the referrals are staying employed, but for most times, your employees aren't really involved in the onboarding process. They're not involved in a referrals training or their performance reviews. So some companies are trying to pay those rewards out sooner, give their employees a little bit more instant gratification so that as soon as their referral gets hired, they start their first week, their first month, then those referral bonuses are being paid out because the employee did their job. They got them in the door. HR was able to hire them successfully. So you want to be mindful of when you're paying that out. In general, we advise it to be as simple as possible. So do a single amount over a specific number of days. Some companies like to stagger it out or maybe do a little bit, within the first 30 days and then a second bonus after 6 months or a year. Jury is still out which one's better, but we definitely know it's really just a function of your organization. If you're having a hard time retaining employees, you might stretch that bonus out or break it up over multiple payouts. So in summary, we all know that employee referrals are a great source of hires. We love employee referrals. They tend to get hired faster. They tend to stay employed longer. They are about 4 times more likely to get hired compared to non-referrals. And one of the easiest ways, whether you have a program in place today or you're trying to start a program, is with a well-defined policy. That way you can remove any gray areas or confusion with your referral program. And the 3 areas that we've talked about today are all about setting the right eligibility requirements for your employees, as well as for the referrals themselves, making it simple for employees to submit referrals, and then setting the right referral bonus payout amounts and schedule to reward your employees. So that's really it for the presentation here. I do want to let you know that one thing that we're doing right now as a part of Hireology's recent efforts to help more of our customers employ us is if you're a current Hireology customer, you can get up to 50% off of the cost of employ us for your first 6 months. There are some terms and conditions there. So if you're not a customer, you can check it out. If you're a current customer, talk to your account rep who's more than happy to tell you a little bit more about that offering. We want to make it as easy as possible for you to make employee referrals your #1 source of hires going into the next year. So feel free to follow up with anyone on your account team to get started with Employ Us. It takes just a couple of days to get ramped up, and then you can start promoting your program and getting more referrals. We'll be following up over the next couple of days with all the information you need to get started if you're interested. And I just want to thank everyone for joining. I'll stick around if anyone has any questions, but otherwise, just to let you know, the next quick hit series will be Thursday, November the 4th at 2 p.m. Central. During that session, I'll be talking about how to boost participation in your referral program so you get more employees referring and more referrals getting hired. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much for joining today. Like I said, I'll stick around for a little bit. If you got any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, and I'll hang around for a few minutes to help anyone with any questions they have.
All righty, we've got a question here. What are we seeing in healthcare as an average referral bonus, especially for specialized clinicians? So Bruce, I can answer your question here. For healthcare, it really depends on the setting. So obviously like travel nursing, where there's a significant demand, we've seen some referral bonuses well into multiple thousands of dollars. For a hospital, looks like is where you're at. Typically, we've seen referral bonuses tiered based on the specialty of the healthcare professional. So more specialized roles are usually in the like $1,000 to $2,000 range, and more like general purpose staff may be closer to $500 or $1,000. If you're looking at specifically for doctors, we've seen some of those bonuses go between $5,000 and $10,000. Just to give you a sense as well. Got a question about referral bonuses in Canada for software companies. Great question. We do see, referral bonuses being offered in countries all around the world, specifically in software. Honestly, there tend to be a little bit on the higher side for a lot of software roles, just because the demand for engineering talent, sales talent can be so high. So typically, conversion rates, I'm trying to think of them live in my head here, can be fairly similar to what's offered in the US and some of the numbers I shared today. You might be a little bit on the lower end, just depending on some markets and where you're at. If you're based in Toronto, it looks like possibly, it might be very competitive with what's being offered in other areas as well. Great question. Question from Nosley. Given the state of hiring and demand for remote work, are you finding clients updating their referral policies? Absolutely, Nas. We see that happening pretty frequently right now. What used to be a competitive base salary, sign-on bonus, and referral bonus, a lot of companies are having to reevaluate that. I can just tell you, in my own backyard, I'm here in Raleigh, North Carolina. We've got Apple and Google all making major moves, hiring thousands of people in our area, which is pushing up salaries and also making it harder to attract talent. So a lot of companies are increasing, whether it be sign-on bonuses or referral bonuses, where they didn't have to necessarily do that in the past. One thing I'll say here too, we've seen a lot of companies where they are remote and try to set what the right referral bonus is for the whole market. So I've had a couple of clients that are based in like San Francisco. They're used to offering like a $5,000 referral bonus. That made a lot of sense for the employees in San Francisco. Now they've got employees scattered throughout the whole US, and in other markets, they were only offering $2,000. So for some clients, they're actually lowering the bonus because they were overpaying in one market where they may not necessarily need to do that once their employees are more spread out. And that's especially true if they're also overseas. We've seen a lot of clients who will, if they're going truly global, they'll adjust that so each country has their own unique referral bonus and currency, because what might make sense here in the States might not make sense elsewhere. All righty. Any other questions? Thanks so much for joining, everyone. Really appreciate it. Hope y'all will tune in to the next session here. We've got the next one coming up here in 2 weeks. We'll be talking all about how to get more employees participating in your program, which is one of my favorite topics, because if you can get more people referring, that's the easiest way to drive more referrals, is just to get more people to refer at least one person.